Hello, folks. Hello, hello. Welcome to, at least on in real time, the last presentation for the first day of MoonCon 2022. I am Irisanya Moon, and I'm going to be presenting on why love spells still matter. Maybe it's a nice palate cleanser for today, or maybe it is something that you are just really dreaming of hearing more about. I'm going to share my take on this, at least. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have any of those things, I think I have the comments enabled correctly. And my hope is that I will see anything as it comes up. Just to let you know, if it feels like it's not quite in the flow of what I'm talking about in that moment, I might not answer it and maybe hang on to that and we'll get to it at the end. I hope that makes sense. But welcome to all the folks who are here. Welcome to the folks who are listening at another time. I'm really glad that you decided to spend some of your time with me. I am so grateful to have this sort of community, especially in the times that we're in. For folks who don't know me, again, I'm Irisanya Moon. My pronouns are she and they, and I'm currently located on the land of the Miwok, the Pomo, and the Great and Rancheria peoples, or what's now known as Santa Rosa, California, USA. Just a little brief tidbit about me, because I know that's not what you're here for. You're here for the love spells. Same friend. A little bit about me. You're watching from Columbus, Ohio. I'm originally from Ohio. Hi folks. Hi, Janet. I am an author at Moon Books. I think that might already be assumed. I've written 5 books at this point, and I have a few more in the wings. I've written Pagan Portals. Hi, Trevor. I have written Pagan Portals on Reclaiming Witchcraft, Aphrodite, Iris. I also wrote a practically pagan book on health and well-being, really helpful in these times. And then I also wrote a book, more so compiled a book for the Earth Spirit series called Honoring the Wild. And it is Reclaiming Witchcraft and Environmental Activism. So all of those things are coming out. There's also more books, so stay tuned. I am a reclaiming witch. That's a tradition that started out in San Francisco, California, by Starhawk and many, many other folks. I also am a student of Fairy, F-E-R-I. I teach classes and witch camps around the world. I'm actually teaching at a witch camp next week and in West Virginia. I also plan rituals, organize events, help with various community needs and the such, and basically keep myself very busy. Things that might be helpful to know about me and kind of where I come from. I am constantly interested in and inspired by this whole love spell of life. Hi, Rena. This whole idea that we are constantly in a dance in and out of love, in and out of connection, in and out of desire. And it's that dance that is so exciting, also sometimes scary, sometimes a little keeps you off balance, but we always return to love. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about love spells today and why they still matter. Because I know that there are probably some folks right there are listening to this or watching this and thinking, this is really ill-timed to talk about this. We are in a state of the world with war, with a pandemic, with the US women having, and people with uteruses having their rights taken away, their bodily autonomy, and probably a myriad of other things that I'm just not listing right now. And for certain, actually, we have personal things going on. There is heavy, heavy stuff in the world. So why talk about love? Why talk about magic and love? And to that I say, why not? If there's ever a time for this to be important, for this to be something to re-nourish us and to rejuvenate us and to inspire us and to bring us together, this is the time. This is the moment. So let's remember that love, for me at least, is the first magic. It is the magic that is said to have come out of the various bursting forth of creation. It is what arrives out of chaos. It is what Gaia decided she needed right after realizing that she had a big role in creating things, that she also wanted to call forth love. Out of chaos is born Aphrodite, is born Eros. And we're kind of in a chaotic time. And maybe there have been other times like this, and maybe because we're in the midst of social media and 24-hour news cycles and all of that, maybe we just don't realize that folks have been through this before. It feels like a lot to me. So I return to love. I return to love as that part that connects us, that brings us together. Whether we have it, whether we don't, whether we're somewhere in between, whether we desire more or we're kind of, that's a lot. Love is the thing that inspires. It is the thing that can call us to action. It is the part of life that can nourish us and remind us of what's important. It can remind us of our boundaries. It can remind us of our passions. And it can remind us how to trust. Love is also that energy that can inspire connection and community and re-inspire it, bring us together when we most need it. Love is also the thing, love is the law, if we want to go Aleister Crowley here. Love is the law of love under will. It is that part of life that is so essential that we will always return to. We are born out of love and we will return to it. And let's talk about love spells then. And let me tell you, just as a sidebar for a moment, if you're ever feeling down about the world, prepare a presentation about love and all the reasons why it's amazing. That will turn your day around. It has turned my day around in the midst of a lot of things that have been going on, in case you've seen the news. All of this to say, love spells, love starts with you. It starts with that desire, with that thing that you want, that thing that you don't have, or that thing that you want again. It is what you hope for. And that in and of itself, if you take anything else away from this, hope is in, I think, short supply these days. Might I encourage you to find a way to return to love in some way to bring back hope? Because I don't want to say without hope, all is lost. But I would say that hope is something that can really keep you going when more and more things arrive. And my guess is that more things will arrive. Love is also, to me at least, it is that loud scream, but sometimes also a quiet whisper. It is in the darkness, and it's in the light, and it's everywhere in between. Even right now, you might be thinking, I'm just listening to this, I'm just watching this, and this has nothing to do with that. I want to invite you for just a moment to put your hand on your heart. And just notice where your heart is in this moment. Notice if it sped up when you decided to call attention to it. Notice if it didn't change at all. Notice if every time I say heart or love, there's a certain feeling. Whether that's an upswell or an ache. Whether it is a smile that comes to your face, or a moment where you just kind of want to hide, or everything in between. I often say things in binaries, understanding that there's plenty of other things out there. But maybe notice where your heart is right now. You don't have to change it. There is nothing to fix in this moment. You are just here, wherever, whenever you are. And maybe just note that somewhere in your brain, where that heart is. We're going to check back in with it later. So one of my other jobs in the world is writing for clients. And one of the things that I often do for them when they hear that I'm kind of witchy is they like me to write things about spells. And so I have written many of things about love spells. And I have written a lot about drawing love back to you, bringing that love back into your life, making that person not cheat, helping that person remember how wonderful you are, strengthening love that already exists, or helping that love dissipate, how to keep somebody with you no matter what, and how to heal a broken heart. But love is so much more than this even too, because when I say love spell, you hear romantic, and that's not necessarily all there is to it. You know that probably, but it's not the first thing you think of. When we think of love spells, we think, I want to get the boy, girl, they, she, him, her. But what about the love of a friend? The love of your family, the love of your community, the love of your witchcraft, the love of your pet, the love of your home, the love of the ocean, the love of this moment right now, or the one that you can't see yet, but that you will fall deeply in love with. Love is so big. It is so wondrous, and it has so much to offer us. And for those who might have a moment or a little niggling thought in the back of their head that says, this is not the thing to do right now. I need to be mad. I need to be sad. I need to be screaming and loud and all of that. First of all, nothing wrong with that. Here's what I would also offer, is that love is not just superficial. It can be, totally. I was going to make a comment about an example of me. We're not going to do that. Love is not something that is necessarily distracting. It can be, totally. It's not necessarily something that is disconnecting. It can also be that. Love is actually a way to deepen into all of this other experience, into all of the other feelings that are going on. Because really, we don't have those other feelings unless we love something. We love the way that we get to live our lives, which makes us angry when we can't do it the way that we want to. We love the way that our situations look like, and then that's why we're sad when they don't look like that anymore. Love is in all of the cracks. It is in all of the crevices. It is in all the clouds and the whispers and the prayers and all of the places that we forget, and all of the places where we feel most alone and where we feel most isolated. Love is still there. You just felt your heart. You can always return to that. Love is also a spell that can help with loss. Love spells are also good for helping with grief, because I believe that grief is the example of love. It is the thing that tells us, that shows us how much we dare to love. Because we love knowing, maybe ignoring, that we will lose anything that we love. Absolutely everything. We will lose it. And I like to think that while that sounds really scary and while that sounds really out of our control, that's really courageous. It is a courageous thing to love and to continue to love despite the fact that you will lose. Somebody will not necessarily die, but they will be alive, but not with you. You lose the job or the project or the beloved animal. But let's return to love. I think love is incredibly important in this particular moment also because our nervous systems are so overwhelmed. We are constantly barraged by more and more things. And it is hard to return to some place that feels okay. A lot of my writing talks a lot about resilience, talks a lot about self-care, although I'm just going to say this for the record. I think I'm changing up self-care to self-devotion. Self-care feels like it's gotten a kind of a different reputation that I'm trying to get away from. But love is also connecting to something that's bigger than you. It is something that is greater than you, something that not everybody experiences in the same way or will experience in the same way. Love is so much greater, and it is such an opportunity, not only to support your needs in this timeline, as many needs as those might be, but I also believe that love is the thing that can heal backwards, can help us heal all of the things that came before and send love to the parts of us who just didn't know better. And then it can also be something that we can send love forward through the timelines to come, to our descendants, to the parts of us that are going to have more things to deal with and that they're going to figure it out. They just don't know that they will yet. Love spells have actually been around for a very long time, unsurprisingly. When I did a little bit of research into this, because I'm that kind of witch, I saw that they were showing up as early as Greek magical papyri, 2nd century BC-ish. There are pictures of them. People have collected these, found these, possibly stolen them. You can see old love spells, and they are writings that are basically like, I want this person in my life. There are charms. There are also some different spells that talk about petitioning a particular god or deity to speak on their behalf, to bring that love back, to bring that love forward, and to seal love for eternity. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen some of that in the Egyptian pantheon too. I tend to go to the Greeks because me and Aphrodite are close. So all this to say, I have a few thoughts about love spells. In the description of this presentation today, the things that I said, I'm going to make sure I'm quoting myself correctly. Love spells are at their best when they are clear in their intention, wise about consent, and open to mystery. So let's talk about that. There are many, many books. There are many, many websites. There are many, many YouTube videos. There are probably a lot of TikToks that talk about how to do a love spell. And here's the formula. And here's how you do it. And this will work for every single person. And this will work for you. That's not really the way that works. Here's what I would say. I would say that every spell, like I'll say that every spell starts with, what on earth do you want? What is your intention? Is that an intention that you want to support with your energy, with your time, with your magic, and with your heart? So a lot of folks, myself included, have and probably will continue, because magic is messy and humans are messy and we learn through mistakes often. I believe that the best, whatever that means, love spell begins with the why. It begins with really understanding what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. And in order to get super clear about that, I encourage folks to get super grounded and really clear about the emotional landscape that's going on when you say, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do right now. The moon can't wait. The stars can't wait. We need to do this right now. If you find yourself there, hold on for a sec and stop and think, how can I listen to this feeling that I'm having in this moment, whether it is anger, sadness, despair, longing, grief, any of those feelings, I invite you, before you create any intention for a spell, to sit with that, feeling, and to sit with it and try to figure out what it's trying to tell you. This sounds so rudimentary. It sounds so like Irisanya, get to the good part. But the clearer your intention, the stronger your understanding of yourself in this moment, the more effective this all becomes. And you can apply this to other spells. Don't tell them I told you. Sit with that feeling. Like, let's go through some sort of example of, I have some longing, or I feel some loss. I'm feeling some grief. That's really what we're going to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit with that feeling. I'm going to sit with that sensation. I'm going to sit with that without telling a story of what it means about me, without telling a story about what it means about if there's another person involved, or about the story or the situation or anything like that. I am just going to sit, and for science says 90 seconds. I'm going to sit with that feeling for 90 seconds, and I'm just going to feel it. I am going to feel it without saying it makes me a bad person, without it makes me a good person, without any story. I am going to sit with that feeling, and I'm going to notice how my body feels. I'm going to notice how I have some tension, and then as the longer I sit with it, I probably don't have as much. The point of this is to kind of clear the way for what your intention really should be. When we are very excited, when we are very angry, when we are very desperate, we often cast spells with those qualities. Again, you are not alone. If you have done this, or you're like, oh no, that is me. Yeah, same, friend. But this is why I'm offering this now. Because love is a very powerful magic, and it is something that can have a very long-term impact. Taking the time to really sit with yourself and to clear the way for what is really the intention that you're going for will help, will clarify, might actually make you go, oh, I just need to have a conversation. I don't need to whip out the candles and the incense just yet. Finding the intention from there, you might have a couple of intentions that arise. I don't know about anybody else, but I sometimes don't like to commit to things. And so I'll often have several intentions that are pretty interesting. Might be the one, might not. So I encourage you to write them all down. I mean, you don't have to use all of them, but they might come in handy. Write them down. Let them sit on an altar with a deity somewhere special, under your pillow at night. And then come back to them. Maybe wait 24 hours. Always good to pace yourself. Come back to each intention and sit with it and go, does this feel all right? Does this feel like what I'm trying to do, or what I'm trying to ask? I've been taught that intention is something that inherently has something at risk, because you have to be committed to that. And that means it could not go well. So really think about, is this the thing that you're really asking for? And ask for what you want, truly and genuinely. But it might take a moment, might take a few moments, might take a month, might take a lifetime. Doesn't mean you have to wait for everything to be perfect, but I would encourage you to think about when it feels good, whatever that means to you. I don't know what that means. And that, as a side note, is probably a good thing to become aware of when you're doing any magical work. Know what actually feels good. The next time you feel good, make a note of that and go, oh, this is the feeling that I'm looking for when I'm trying to test to see if something is right. So, intention. The other thing that I actually, say this second is consent. I say this secondly because I think sometimes you will go through the making of an intention and you'll realize, oh, I don't really need to get to the next step. So consent, autonomy. Didn't think I was going to be able to fit in autonomy into this presentation, but I did. So consent is the thing that is often talked about in love spells. Don't do a love spell on someone else. Don't try to connect to someone, that hasn't been in your life or that has shown no interest and all of that. And I think sometimes it's a joke that people think that they think it's a joke, but I've seen practical magic. I've also read the book where they create the spell for the woman and she says, I want this guy to be with me no matter what. And he is, and it's horrible. But that's what she asked for. But outside of media and, fiction, hopefully, one of the things that I'd like to bring up is consent is still a really real thing with love spells. And I would beg, most spell work, not all of it, much of it. Do you want to create a love spell that keeps someone with you that has told you repeatedly they don't want to be with you? What kind of spell is that? Yes, free will. Free will is there, and it is something to respect, I think. Autonomy, right? Consent is also about, the idea that what you think is the best idea is maybe not the best idea for someone else. I like to believe that I know a lot of stuff and I know what's really good, but I actually don't know what's great for everybody. Darn. But consent, I also bring this up to bring up sort of a point about love, that when you are trying to control something, that's not love. Love does include boundaries. It does include this is not an okay behavior. When you're trying to control somebody to be something that they're not, that is not love. That is force. That is probably some trauma, probably some attachment, probably some codependency, things like that. So this is all to say consent, super important. That doesn't mean that there aren't situations in which you could get the consent of another person. Maybe you're not in a great place in your relationship and you want to work with your partner to strengthen your love by performing a spell together or working on a spell together or bringing your energy into some altar together. That's great. Maybe you're in a relationship that's dissolving and you actually want to do a spell to let that love still be celebrated in some other time, just not with each other anymore. This is all love magic too. Love magic is not just get the person. It is holding this beautiful creature, this beautiful experience we get to have as humans, and holding it well. So it means not just taking from it. And the other thing that I often say is that being open to mystery. That is probably the hardest part, is recognizing that you could want something really, really badly. You could want something with every single chamber of your heart, every single blood vessel, artery, all of those things, and it still might not be yours. So when I say open to mystery, being open to the idea that there might be something better. You might do a love spell that includes, this is the intention, this is the person that I want, here are all the qualities, here is what they smell like. and someone else arrives, being open to the possibility that that might be even better, I think is part of this magic. Being open to surrendering to the idea that I can only conceive of, create a spell for that which I already kind of know. The universe knows beyond that. So maybe in those workings, leaving some space for this or something better. Yes, thank you. The comment of we seem to naturally put a lot of limitations on love and where it can come from, even from ourselves. Yes. Oh my goodness. I could speak for hours about the self-love bit. Absolutely. Thank you. So a couple things with this whole surrendering and being open to mystery. I say with this spell work that being open to seeing signs that it's working, being willing to assume that it's on its way, whatever that is, being willing to recognize that things that are new, things that are beyond what we've had, that we might not know them at first. That doesn't mean that the next person that's nice to you, then they're the love of your life. But what I would offer is that not immediately dismiss something because they didn't have one blue eye and one green eye. Things like that. I think that one of the best lessons that I've learned is to allow things to happen as they do, not as I want. That seems like that might not be true. What I mean is allow things to arrive versus not as I have really wanted to control into being. Probably not saying that well, but hopefully you get the gist. So here's the part where I have in my outline. What do I do, Irisanya? And so let's do that. So we've talked about intention. We've talked about all the different kinds of love. We've talked about consent. We've talked about maybe making some emotional space for what your real intentions are, not having tunnel vision. Yes, my goodness. Can we do that spell? Let's all do that together for tunnel vision. And also being open to mystery and open to the fact that the divine, however you experience that, might have a couple things up their sleeve that you cannot conceive right now. And thank goodness. That is something actually that gets me through a lot of days, is recognizing that I don't know everything, but there is something that has been leading me a lot. And when I look back, a lot of things have often worked out when I really was sure that they wouldn't, including love. So, Irisanya, what the heck do I do? Well, I've given you a whole bunch of different thoughts about how to prepare for a love spell. I have given you thoughts about what they could be for, how they might look, what they shouldn't be for necessarily. And in the end, you do what you like. How do you put all this together? Here are the things that I learned from reading the different spells that were in the Greek papyri. Here's what I learned. Know what you want. These are all things that were coming from these different pieces of spell work. Know what you want. Words matter. Be clear about what you need. And call for help when you need it. Calling for help is the one part I kind of haven't touched on. Like, how do I call out for help for these things? Now, I will tell you that Aphrodite is a delightful goddess to work with. I have a whole book. But also, there are many other deities that are great to work with for this. Or just a very general love goddess or love energy or the moon or the stars, the ocean. You can call out to a whole bunch of things. If we're all born of love and we all come from love, kind of is everywhere. When I say calling out for help, though, one of the things I want to encourage, inspire, beckon you to avoid is this idea that our love is only okay if we ask a whole bunch of people that we know and they say it's okay. That our desires are okay as long as everybody else says they're okay. Instead, turn to the divine. Turn to yourself. One of the things that you might be noticing about all of this is I say a lot about coming back to yourself. What do you want? What is important to you? How does it feel? Where does that land? What is your intention? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What are the stories you're telling? Because the trick for me is that we're all a spell anyways, continuously casting love and other things into the world. We don't really have to do anything but be in alignment with what we want and know what it is and care for this beautiful vessel that was born of, I don't know if everybody feels like they're born of love, and I don't know if everybody is, but I do believe we're somehow brought into this world because of that, because we're meant to be here, and that comes from love. So to tell you, here's how you do the most perfect love spell. Here are the ingredients. Here are the correspondences. Here are the words that you chant up into the sky at a precise time would not be authentic. It would be telling you something like giving you a pair of shoes without knowing your size. Here's what I can tell you. The more you get to trusting in what you want and knowing what you want, the more you will trust that what you choose to do is the right thing for you. I try to remind folks that witchcraft all started with a bunch of people going like, well, there's this rock, let's try that. And so why not take the same approach? I feel like this stone is the thing that I want to use, and I want to sing to it, and I want to sing it love songs, or I want to play a list of love songs from my, online playlist. And that's how I'm going to call love to me. I want a kind of love that will dance with me. I want the kind of love that will sing badly. I want the kind of love that wants to go on road trips and that wants to read books until our eyes close because we can't keep them open anymore. What are ways to bring in those energies? What are ways to bring in those experiences and saying like, this is my love spell. This is the life. This is the wonder that I want to bring in. You can use candles, you can use incense, you can write it down on a piece of paper, you can write it on the sand. But what really matters is, what do you think feels best? Is it writing it on the side of a candle and lighting it every Friday because that's Aphrodite's day? Great. If you want to light a certain incense every day to remind yourself that love is something important and self-love and self-devotion is something that you're trying to call in, great. There is no one recipe outside of you being the main ingredient and being the person and the being and the heart that is courageous enough to ask for what you really want and to be clear about what you really want. So I invite you in this moment to think about where your heart is right now. Maybe that is touching your heart again. Maybe that is sinking into a memory. Maybe that is sinking into a feeling, that feeling that you get when someone says, I love you, and they mean it, and they want nothing in return. Where is your heart now? Where can your heart return to? And because you're all here, I'm actually going to give you I'm going to read something that's from a book that I've written that's not going to be out for a while. But this is a quote from a book that I found in my research. And it doesn't matter if you don't know who these beings are. The energy of this, I think, is what I would love to leave you with as inspiration, as maybe something nourishing to move forward in this strange world, to move forward and to have the courage to write your own spell, to become your own spell, to call in love in all of its forms, facets, and tastes. This is a quote from a runic stick that was found very long time ago. And this is from the book that I wrote about the Norns, or the Weird Sisters from Norse mythology. The ancient wind of the cliff Nornir, my thoughts, turned very early for me towards the beautiful, harmful fir tree, carrying fire from the deep fish ground sea. They, the thoughts, have been held fast by magic. Love conquers everything. Let us surrender to love. Held fast by magic. Love conquers everything. Let us surrender to love. This is a very old love charm. And I share that because it's not a direct quote of the Norns by any stretch. But knowing that even in a land that often had a lot of conflict and a lot of struggle, there was still space for this too. There was still space for a love charm. There was still space for this moment of wonder and magic. And I remind you that love and hope are connected. They inspire, they motivate. These times are tough. And so let us cast love spells of all flavors, colors, forms, intentions, feelings, playlists. Let us cast them wide, and possibly with good intentions, but wild abandon, because I really think that's what this world needs. I know it's what I need a lot of the time. So that is what I had to say. I mean, I have lots more to say, but this is the start of that. If you're interested in more things like this, I teach a lot about Aphrodite and love magic. And also I have in September, it's on my website, I have a class called Little Love Spells, and it focuses on Aphrodite, but we're all going to work together and create little love spells. Again, it's September 10th, and it is recorded. So if you can't come at that time, that's fine. You can always get the recording, and I'll probably have a handout too. My website is my name, so www.irisanyamoon.com. And I have a newsletter and all that stuff. But I also teach regular classes on Aphrodite and hopefully on Iris and a whole bunch of other things if you're so inclined to learn more. But I'm happy to field any questions, or if anybody wants to share how their heart's feeling, that's always lovely. And if not, I just really, my work in the world is to make sure that folks know that they're not alone, and that no matter what is happening around you, you can return to love and return to yourself and return to the things that are important, return to the things that matter. And also, you don't need to have a whole bunch of stuff to create love spells. You don't have to. You have your body, you have your heart, you have all the things. And I am not a Pollyanna. I am not wildly optimistic about things, but I get through all of it because of this work. And my hope is that it's helpful to someone else too. So you're welcome, Trevor. You're welcome, Raina. And folks can also always reach out to me at my website if you have more questions that you don't want to say here. So I'm really easy to get in contact with. And I was also on a really great podcast today, so you might want to go find that when that's up. that might be helpful too. So yeah, you're welcome, Connie. I am glad to be here. I'm glad to share this time with you and share these strange times with everyone. What a life. It's true. Yeah. Thanks, folks.